away fees, right?
Yes.
And we were saying that, in order to ensure that the next generation, our kids that are coming up, right, and eventually, hopefully, their kids, is that, if there's a property within a family, that the next generation tries to hold on to it and not get rid of it, because that is helping to break, that poverty cycle, because you can use it as a primary home, or they can use it as a rental property. But I found, at least in my own family, properties have gone, that it's been sold because no one really understood what generational wealth and what that property could actually do for an individual or individuals. Any thoughts on that, or that you would
Uh,
like to add?
yeah, yeah, definitely. I we was having a great conversation about generational wealth. I think that was one of the ways to help with poverty. Understand, helping people or young people understand what financial investment's all about, money management. All of these conversations are healthy conversations that we stop having. We got caught into this economy, this world, with everything that's going on, that we lost the ability to train up our children in the way in which they should go. I think that's something that we can deal with right now. It can definitely change. We can start teaching the younger generation what wealth is all about, why having a property is important, and trying to sustain it. And not just for the young people, but for the parents as well. For those that are looking to sell their homes or downsize, think about the next generation and how hard it will be for them to get homes in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was actually speaking with, I have a summit coming up in the fall. Well, as an author of 106 books, one of my books is entitled,
Mm,
From Poverty to Prosperity. And the sequel is called the Poverty to Power Leadership Framework. So I have a summit coming up, from poverty to prosperity, in October. And I'm saying this because I was speaking to one of my lead speakers that'll be part of the summit. And I said, what you'll learn about me is that I'm all for preparation as opposed to postvention or intervention. Because if we can get them early through
yes.
knowledge, hands-on practical application beyond theory, then we're already breaking that cycle through knowledge. But there, people are having the opportunity to own the information as it relates to them. And that's what we're saying about poverty disruption, right? If and by
Understood.
using ownership of property or ownership of anything really, and keeping it in the family. But if people don't understand what that looks like or why it's important, they fail to understand that letting that house go is really letting more than equity go, right? It's sending us backwards versus pushing us forwards. And so
Starting
I
over again.
appreciate, man, say it again. And I don't even think starting over is that hard. But as we were talking offline, when you were talking about the interest rates, and you know just I mean, a one bedroom right now could literally be the equivalent of purchasing a home, because rent is so high, right? And
Yes.
instead of our youth or young adults, or even people right now, instead of them investing into something that could be left for the next generation, if you're renting, once you're done, you're done. Like there's no interest, there's
That's
no
right. There's no
quality,
benefit. There's no
there's
benefit.
nothing. Yeah, right.
Nope.
So yeah,
Yeah.
that's so important. So poverty disruption is, from a preventive standpoint, we do have the opportunity to reach those youth and young adults and graduate students now. And for even for those who, like us, who have property, to prepare our youth to understand that, right? So,
Hmm.
for those that are listening, for sure, pay attention. So, this does lead us into the next topic, poverty disruption. So,
Hmm.
the question is, from your perspective, Mr. Haynes, what is one of the biggest barriers preventing individuals and communities from moving from poverty to prosperity?
Opportunity. You know, I think it's opportunity. A lot of the opportunity that was there in the past for many of us are no longer there. It has to be reimagined now. And I think, like we were speaking for just a little while ago, leaving home, leaving properties. Those are ways we have to start trying to combat how to move from poverty to success. A lot of programs has been taken away. Jobs is no longer paying what they used to make people comfortable in life. You know, you have to have 2 or 3 jobs just to be able to sustain yourself. So, I mean, there's ways we can move forward, moving people from poverty to success, but I think it has to be reimagined. And again, property, understanding how to manage money, understanding how important it is to set yourself up, set your children up for success, because we are dealing with unparalleled times. But we are dealing with the same situations, but on a different scale.
Yeah, and yeah, you wrapped it up. Ain't no sense in me even going backwards. So let's go into sustainable solutions. So we talked about the poverty
Sure.
disruption. We identified, some examples that I think people can really understand, whether it's ownership of a condo or a home or a townhome or a car, right? Or, jewelry or savings bonds, all of those things are things that are very important that can be passed over to that someone else, hopefully within a family. So, those examples are examples of solutions. And you mentioned the word sustainable. So, sustainable solutions is our next topic. So, what innovative or practical solutions do you believe that can create long term sustainable change in communities facing economic and social challenges? And Lord knows everyone across the globe are facing these two challenges in one way or the other. So, what do you think?
Yes. Sustainable development goals, I mean, it provides a useful framework for addressing issues like poverty and education, health, and environmental stewardship and economic opportunities. But while these goals are global, the real work happens in local levels. Every community can identify practical ways to improve quality of life while ensuring that the future generations inherit a stronger, healthy communities. I think there's so much that we can do right now on local levels that will sustain that. Like, for example, one of the things I'm trying to initiate is community caretakers. That's an initiative that I'm starting, trying to find people in associations and communities that care about their communities, that want to see it look the way it's supposed to be, that want to invest in their investment, invest their time, and being a good steward of the economy. I mean, in the environment. One of the things I'm looking to do is not only just get community association members to join into that, but also start planting trees, start dealing with the waterways, clean up our waterways, just sustaining the community. A lot of people waiting for elected officials to have all the answers, but there's things that we can do to improve not only just our living quality of life, but also our investments. We just got to have the information, like I said, to share with everyone so they'll know how to be able to do better and be better.
And this is why I love having the opportunity to speak with individuals such as yourself that are doing the work on the ground. And and I say this all the time, that globally Agenda 2030 is this initiative, right? That is in action across the country, but without bringing it down to the local level, we can never change initiatives on a state, the federal, and then international, right? And some of the things you just talked about fall within our SDG goals we talked about. You talked about SDG 13, climate action. You talked about SDG 15, life on land. You talked about SDG 17, partnerships for the goal. SDG 10, reduce inequalities. And that's why it's so important with this topic of Agenda 2030 in action, because as you talked about in your response, if it's not being done locally, then globally it doesn't make a difference. But the one thing I do have a follow-up question is, and cross partnerships is a huge perspective of mine, as I think it is most people, with knowing so many barriers that are out there, and the cross partnerships and dealing with economic and social challenges are important. Where do you think there's a gap as to so many initiatives? So we have a lot of government programs, we have a lot of government agencies, we have a lot of nonprofits, we have a lot of for profit